Good afternoon, everybody. Alex here. How are we all doing? Thank you for swinging by for our rescheduled webinar. I've got Davina here with me from Crates. How are we doing?
Hi guys, great to be here, and well, for the second time this week actually, Alex. So
a good time. Had a big chat. So we've got Davina Dunlea, CEO of Crate Media. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you can see people piling in from all over the place. We've got Socky from Cardiff, Trevor from Plymouth, got Mike, we've got Jane from Oxfordshire, Warren. How you doing, Warren? Good to see you as always. Julie, Simon, Peter, all piling in. Propagate, looking forward to the rescheduled. Nish from London. We've got Karen, we've got Jane, got Wayne. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got loads of people all piling in, and also those of you who are watching on social, we are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. If you'd like to come here and be a little bit more interactive, then we'd encourage you to do so. You literally just register at festivalofenterprise.co.uk, and then you get an email link to join all of our good friends who have joined us here today already. So Dale's just joined us as well. How you doing, Dale? Wayne's in Fareham. So thank you all very much indeed. This is a super popular webinar. So really looking forward to this one. So we are talking about making new digital strategies authentic. So Davina's going to use Crate's clients to showcase how brands, be they large, be they small, have adapted their digital strategies to keep business moving during the crisis. She's also going to highlight why brand authenticity is the driving force behind every current strategy, from awareness to ROI driven, and why this matters more than ever. Davina's got over 15 years of strategic digital media planning, and as I've just found out, from all over the world. So I will let her explain more. I'm just going to focus the screen. So I suppose a little bit of housekeeping, Davina, before we go on. Those questions that you've got for Davina, probably makes sense to answer them at the ends, I reckon. So if you want to post up any questions, unless they're earth-shattering, and then I'll get Davina's attention to answer them, but she might well answer them during the presentation. So if you post them up in the chat function, everybody, on the right-hand side, that will be super helpful so that we both get to see them, and we'll be able to answer all the questions now. We'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So slides are up. Davina, without further ado, over to you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks everyone for joining me, and sorry to those who joined on Wednesday where I had some technical issues, and I can assure you I am technically minded. It was a very strange issue with my Thunderbolt display, so just a little precursor there. So I run Crate. We're a digital agency. We are actually based in Shoreditch when we're not all working from our home offices and living rooms. And I want to talk to you guys today about the real shift that we've seen, obviously, with the current crisis, which has really highlighted the need for all brands to have that true authenticity behind them. So a little bit about us. We're a boutique agency. There's just under 20 of us, and we specialise in media planning and buying from the whole spectrum, all the way from digital out of home, which we're not doing much of at the moment, all the way through to social and down to some more direct response channels such as PPC. And just a little bit in terms of our client experience, heavy up in retail, Arcadia Group, UGG, Clarks. We work with luxury brands as well. We're very lucky to work in travel and tourism, which has been a testing time for us over the past few months. And then we've got a whole bunch of FMCG clients and quite heavy up in the wine and spirits as well. We also have our own in-house design and build team, and we have found that incredibly useful over the past couple of months. So, agenda for today. This isn't death by PowerPoint. I want to talk to you guys about how we can how digital can support small businesses. So there's a lot of small bricks and mortar businesses that may not have really thought about their digital strategy before, or may not have really found the need to invest. I'm going to talk to you guys about why that's so important. I'm going to talk to you about how to build your online sales, but staying true to brand. Things like clickbait and some affiliate partnerships and things like that, which we haven't seen work very well for us over this period of time. And then thirdly, when the whole world is standing still, how do we keep communicating? So really just wrapping up some of the case studies that I'm talking to you guys about today. So first on the agenda is how can digital support small bricks and mortar businesses? I want to talk to you about Bear. They're a very cool coffee shop chain, independent chain. They were obviously affected by COVID and unfortunately had to furlough staff, had to shut down all of their shops. But we were very fortunate that we have been working with Bear now. I've been working with Bear and their MD for 4 years. And they have always been very smart on social media. They've never spent a lot, but they've always had a very engaged audience. They don't just talk to their audience about coffee, they talk to their audience about the lifestyle and what Bear really stands for as an independent coffee shop. So because of that communication that they have with their clientele, we were able to set up a successful e-commerce shop and that was up and running within 2 weeks. So yeah, it was quite amazing how we all pulled together. But this was the concept. It was stay home, stay caffeinated. I think a lot of my colleagues are drinking copious amounts of coffee and probably copious amounts of alcohol as well, especially if anyone's been homeschooling. So stay home, stay caffeinated was the messaging that we decided to go live with. And the key messages around not just this campaign, but definitely Bear and their coffee shops and what they stand for. Everything they do, so all of their beans are all sustainably sourced. They don't compromise on taste and quality. So our beans were ground to order. And also, they're kind of trendy. They know their target audience. They know what design is going to cut through. They know the language to speak to their audience as well. And you can see a couple of examples there of the ads that we ran for Bear. We run display advertising. There's a couple of screenshots there, one on The Guardian, one on NME. And then also our social media ads as well. Very heavy up on Instagram stories. And also Facebook. So those are the channels that we went live on. As I mentioned as the intro to Bear, we've always worked with them in order to just ensure that they engage with an audience. So we were already running geo-targeted paid social campaigns. And that had built up a really loyal audience for them across Instagram and Facebook. And they've got some quite quirky members of staff. So we were really fortunate that we were able to sponsor the Lonely Barista. And you can see and have a look on their online channels. We can see we did a series of very simple videos just showing how essentially we're going to sponsor that Lonely Barista because obviously they're at home and they're not serving anyone and it's all a bit grim, but we were trying to really engage and bring a little bit of humour to the situation as well. So we had fast-paced turnaround times on the content creation, and then we already had an existing engaged social audience that Bear had been speaking to for quite some time. On top of that, we were really fortunate that Bear has clear brand values. So as I mentioned, the sustainability and the ethical stance that they have always been very good at conveying those messages across social media. The taste and quality of their products, there's a lot of collateral, and there's always been a lot of collateral on their website about creating the perfect coffee, experimenting at home with French press and filters, and really understanding the grind as well. And then, of course, as I said, they really do know their audience well. We work with Hattie, and she works internally in their marketing team. She's got a very good eye in terms of what their audience want to see. And also it was very light-hearted as well. So they were very on trend in terms of the content that they were posting. So as I mentioned, we were able to set that e-commerce store up within 2 weeks because they had a clear vision internally. We've got an agile team at Crate. And the team that I worked with, we really did all roll our sleeves up, and I was looking at copy and I was helping set up display ads. And it really, I don't think anyone's had a job title during this crisis, because we have all really had to turn things around very quickly. So the clear brand values, super important. They love what they do. That's really conveyed well from their social media channels. But secondly, they really know their consumer well. So because they had such a loyal customer base across all their hotspots that we've been actively speaking to for really nearly 4 years, we've been running social media campaigns for them. And, you know, this is at quite small budgets as well. They are a small business. So Bear for me is definitely a client of passion, because I just love working with their team. They really know their audience, and you know, they really are. They are really creating a destination, not just in store, but also online as well. So they know exactly what their consumer base want and what they need, and also they took the time out to create content that their consumers had more time to experiment with. So not only were they selling the beans, but they were also selling some of the equipment. To me, that's like a bit of a science experiment in terms of the filters. But they really took it to the next level in terms of throwing up products very quickly on their e-commerce store. Their e-commerce store was built on Shopify. Obviously, there's a few options out there, but generally, when you're working with marketing teams, it's very easy for us to plug into Spotify infrastructure and be able to track sales. As I said, this store was set up within 2 weeks, so we were able to do that super quickly. And as I said, you know, they were innovative as well, and hopefully we are as an agency in terms of how we collaborate with our clients. And the fact that they've always had a low-level activity on social. They don't do it in heights and lows. They'll always be speaking to their consumer base. I do feel that has been really important for the success of their e-commerce store. And look, this was throwing up really quickly. We're still learning. We're still looking at what products are resonating well. We're still optimizing imagery. But the fact that we were able to do this so quickly is because you can't overthink it. You've got to just go with your gut and then test and learn, as we have done with the imagery and copy thereafter. So look, I've been talking to the owner of there for a couple of years about setting up an e-commerce store, and it was always at the back of his mind, and we did it in 2 weeks because needs must, and they needed a revenue stream. But I think that's a really nice example of how, if you have a brand that has that authenticity, and they know their audience and they know they're creative, then these things can be done very quickly without overthinking it too much. So moving on to my next case study. This brand really built their online sales very quickly, again, because they didn't have any choice. It was the only revenue stream they were going to be able to monetize. But they were also very smart at staying true to their brand values as well. through their creative tone of voice. So the brand that we have worked with, and I've actually worked with Lighter Life now for almost 8 years. Lighter Life is a UK diet brand, and the fast product is the premise is 5-2 and very easy to mix into your diet. It's sold exclusively at the moment, or back then it was sold exclusively at Superdrug. So obviously with Superdrug closing down, we had to rely just on online to deliver revenue. And whilst we've been doing a good job on digital, we had a great opportunity to drive some cut through and increase those sales. So we actually exceeded their sales targets, even with all the Superdrug stores shutting down, as their online sales doubled during this period, and they are still going from strength to strength. And also because we've had the time out to focus on online purely, we've also been able to set up their Amazon shop, and some other deals come in as well, some other retailers. So it's funny how in these times of disarray and when you're pushed out of your comfort zone, you have to look at other revenue streams to keep things moving. And definitely for us, it's been really positive. It's kind of when you have your best ideas when you're under pressure, I think. So to go into a bit of detail, we ran with creative that, this is our January creative. And our January creative, again, we're very lucky we had indoor creative. So we had a real mix of creative assets back in January, which is generally the key time for Lighter Life. Stripped out all the outdoor stuff because that's just going to make people feel miserable, and really honing on, that being at home. And do you know what? We are resetting. People being at home and consumers who are obviously more worried about their health more than ever are definitely more, they really want to use those diet brands that understand the situation they're in. So I really feel that Lighter Life did so well because it is an accessible direct-to-consumer brand. If you look at brands like Protein World, and let's call them some of those Instagram diet brands, they sometimes make consumers feel a little bit alien. And the great thing that I love about Lighter Life is that it speaks to a mass market. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it understands that everybody has different needs when it comes to health and lifestyle. So it's accessible. They also offer cognitive behavioural therapy support. So there was online support as well, which is still ongoing. And we also had an offer to work with, which was very lucky, because obviously if you are new to trying a product, to be lured in with an offer, it does help. So we had a half price off offer to work with. So Lighter Life's audience is slightly older, and where we've seen a huge shift in the last months is those audience members or those customers who potentially were, we know they were going into Superdrug and they were, going down the high street, buying the product, popping it in their basket and checking out that way. Again, looking at the positive side of this situation, that older audience, and this isn't just about Lighter Life, we've seen it across a whole bunch of our brands, is you've got that older audience which are now shopping online because there isn't any other option. So again, they're having to shop online. Of course, that increases our online audience. So that's been a real positive change for Lighter Life. And actually, as a result of the traffic that we sent to the Superdrug store and all of the awareness messaging we did across not just display media, but also social as well, Lighter Life is now the #1 weight loss brand across Superdrug's online store. And I really feel it's not, we didn't compromise in terms of our brand, the messaging, the creative. We didn't go off brand at all. We actually added to it. The messaging for me is fun, it's light-hearted, it's inspirational. They did onboard some influencers, and we worked with them to deliver online exercise classes and mindfulness classes. But again, every single piece of content we've added to the Lighter Life strategy was true to their brand. It wasn't a, let's say, a perfect influencer, Instagrammer. You know, we were using real people that our audience can relate to. And I think that's super important when you are trying to convey your brand online. We are working with a lot of influencers at the moment, and it's very difficult to find that authenticity in them. So that's definitely one thing that we had to sift through a lot when we were going through this process in terms of building and developing the content for them. So as I've mentioned, that highlighting the fast philosophy, especially when diet and wellbeing are in the public forum at the moment, it did generate record-breaking sales for them. That accessibility, you know, showing individuals, showing our consumers on the phone, and all of the support team that Lighter Life have, because they do offer face-to-face meetings. All of that got converted to Zoom calls and online groups and Facebook groups. So we had all of that to work with as well. And as I said, that offer did help kind of just probably push those new customers over the edge as well. Obviously, we've been in this situation for a while now, and now we feel like we've converted all of the Superdrug customers, even though the stores are obviously all opening up again now. But we are now actually looking at just targeting brand new Lighter Life customers. So it's given us the opportunity not just to speak to their in-store audience, but actually open the brand up to a whole new customer base. And we set up our Amazon shop 3 weeks ago, and using, you know, being smart in terms of targeting, so targeting Amazon Prime customers, we've been able to deliver some brilliant sales on Amazon as well. So the kind of the three main points I want to convey with this is that we promoted those positive solutions, and by promoting positive solutions, you know, we are definitely going to see that those new customers are going to stay with the brand. And a latest Engelman study said that 65% of those individuals who have bought new products that have promoted positive solutions during this period will continue to purchase that brand. Definitely make sure that your messaging is simple, and I think definitely we need that simplistic messaging when you're doing any new customer acquisition. And also, just going back to influencers as well, you know, we could have shifted over to a lot of the Instagram type influencers, which are probably too polished and not the right type of influencers for this brand. Denise Welsh has been a brand ambassador of Lighter Life for many years now. So we made sure that we used real people and really kind of honed in on that genuine aspect of the brand. And I think some of the ads there, I've just seen Peter, you've just said that the older audience was not reflected in what you saw in the ads. There was a whole range of ads. At the time, we were running a matrix of, we had about 50 different assets just for image ads on Facebook. So yeah, I'm happy to send you over the full list of assets, but it is a wide audience in terms of the women that are featured in the advertising as well. So a couple of case studies there, and hopefully you can take some of those aspects into your planning for your brand comms. But I guess the bigger question is, when the world is standing still, how do we keep communicating? What do we say? And also, you know, a lot of brands that I have worked with over the years didn't really say a lot during this time, and I think that was a big mistake. So we work with Mercure Hotels, We run all of their in-house creative, and we do all of their paid advertising across social. So we had the concept of live local. And live local for us and for the brand was very much about submerging yourself in wherever you're traveling to, submerging yourself in that culture, be it the location, the food. Yeah, for us, we pretty much planned the whole year, and we had to really go back to the drawing board on that one, because again, you don't want to make people feel alienated. No one wants to see beautiful scenery when you can't actually get there, or when you've had your holidays cancelled. So we flipped that on its head and changed it to Discover at Home. And for us, Discover at Home, we were able to take the recipes of those local hotels and create content that kept those users engaged. So it's a little piece of holiday that all of us can experience at home, is cooking. Obviously a lot of people have been experimenting with probably not as many ingredients as they had before. So, you know, a great thing is just to think about where your audience is and what they're doing, and how a travel brand can still engage with them, but without making them just feel a bit sad that they've had their holidays cancelled and that they can't actually get to these places. So Discover at Home is still active on the Mercure Instagram page. And I hope, you know, for some of your brands, it's giving you a few ideas of what you can do with influencers. We've actually now taken it to the next level, because obviously now things are opening up again. We've now got some of the chefs from some of the Mercure hotels delivering some content for us as well. So we are going to bring it back to obviously showcasing some of the hotels, but we're doing it slowly and mindfully, and being very conscious about the crisis we're in at the moment. So another very exciting kind of piece of cut through that we've seen over the past few months is that challenger brands have the perfect opportunities to cut through. And we work with Gunner. It's a craft soft drinks company, and if you haven't tried it, please do. They are very innovative in terms of their creative, as you can see. Definitely has some awesome cut through. But for us, we've been able to keep sponsoring, keep delivering ads for them. And actually, rates have gone down across the board, not just in terms of social media rates, but also programmatic display advertising as well. We've been able to get some really good exposure for them at reduced rates. So they've kept going throughout this whole pandemic. We were very excited at the beginning of the year because they started to be stocked in Wetherspoons, and you know, for them it was very much about being in stores, being in pubs, and being, you know, more access to consumers. So even though obviously that's, you know, there's a curveball thrown there, they've been able to keep communicating, and actually we have seen their online sales increase ever so slightly. Obviously, it's quite difficult with FMCG products to get consumers just to buy a 4-pack of soft canned drinks, but absolutely we've seen some improvement in terms of their online sales. And you know, again, on Amazon, more and more customers have been using Amazon in terms of Amazon Pantry, and just to kind of top up their consumer goods in the UK. It's slightly very different to the US market. That's a lot more advanced than us. But yeah, they've it's been great that we've been able to continue to work with them. And again, look, all of these ad spends are very low levels, as you can imagine, but it is important to remain present, which is what they have done. So just to obviously go through the key points, as I said, we've definitely seen that staying positive and inspiring consumers through that empathetic messaging has worked for our brands, and definitely when we've seen other brands in the industry, that positivity is very important. But you've got to stay true to your brand values. You can't become a different brand just because you've been hit with this curveball. So I think definitely staying true to your brand values. Your audience should follow you. With Life shoppers and Superdrug, they've been a key category in store for a long time. But to see those shoppers actually start shopping online, we never thought they would do it. They did, and I think that's important to know that consumers will move, and they will if they really do value your product, then they will move with you. I guess all hands on deck. I know everybody says this when obviously times are tough, everybody rolls their sleeves up and gets on with it. But we've really had to be proactive and work with our clients and just work with the right teams as well. Just because we've got a good in-house creative team doesn't mean that we haven't been able to collaborate with other creative agencies, which is what we have to do to get things to work. So for us, we've really enjoyed that, and we've enjoyed the speed that our clients have been able to work at, even where some instances individuals have been furloughed, and so we've had limited capacity, limited resource from our agency partners. Yeah, the reduced advertising rates, and we still continue to see that, has been really important for us because we've been able to increase our reach levels with reduced spend. So that's been really positive in terms of results for our clients. And I guess the last point, and we can't always control this, but just being transparent on fulfillment. I think actually, just as brands need to be empathetic with their customer base, I think consumers are also empathetic in terms of business, and really understanding the strains that businesses have been under during this period. And so being very upfront in terms of delivery times, if it's going to be, and we unfortunately, the first kind of early stages of Bear, it was you were looking at least 5 days, working days, for anything to be shipped out. The consumers there were perfect, and we were just straight up from the start that this is new, this fulfillment is all new for us, we didn't get any negative feedback, and we didn't get any angry Twitter comments, which is what you always want to stay away from where possible. So that concludes my slides, but I'm obviously very happy to open it up to discussion. I was trying not to look at too many comments as I was going through, because sometimes it can throw you off, but I'm very happy to obviously now have a chat through.
Cool. Thanks, Davina. I will refocus the screen on you rather than me. Have a drink. You deserved it.
It is water, I promise you. I can assure you I'm drinking water.
Yeah, it's not in a brown paper bag, so you're
yeah.
Let's have a look. Loads and loads of questions. Let me shoot back here. It's a good question from Felix. Says, as someone in the early stages of building an agency, I'm keen to know how you decide how much to charge a new client.
Well, pricing, that's always an interesting topic. I think for me, it's always been about the longevity. So a lot of our clients, we haven't been charging them for the past couple of months. The retainers have been, we've paused the retainers. And I think it's very much about your relationship, about building that long-term relationship. The majority of the clients that we work with at Cray, I've worked with them for a number of years, and I think you just have to be very upfront in terms of your agency costings, and transparent in terms of all of the fees, and we really do break it out to time per head, and so that they can see exactly what the net profit margin is on the agency. So I would personally be as transparent as possible. But no partner, no client that you work with wants you to not make any money. because obviously then you're not going to give that client any of your attention. So it's very much about being transparent in terms of the net profit that you want to make per head, per client.
Yeah, and Felix, if you go back to our previous webinars, there's one by Chris Croft on pricing. Chris is actually my neighbor, and he's had something like 87,000 students come through his different courses, and he ran an absolutely brilliant webinar on pricing. And for me, it's, it's like Davina said, working out what your actual costs are to start with, where your positioning is going to be in the marketplace. Are you going premium? Are you being competitive with who else has got a similar offering to yourself, or are you trying to sell it low and build it high, and there can only be one winner in that game? And I think it comes down to yourself as well, like personally, how you value your time and your team's time. How much is that of value? And I think the biggest lesson for me is don't undersell yourself, don't undervalue your services and your time, because it is a classic mistake when people are starting out, and you just got to raise your prices then. Whereas I think if you set your stall out to start with, it's far easier coming from that point of view. Felix says it's digital as part of our offering, but more general consumer focused work on and offline. Thanks. Warren, I've just spotted that Bear only have a few regional locations. How has the recent campaign extended their reach and attracted new audiences? Good question as always, Warren.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has extended their audience base far beyond what we would expect, actually. So initially we ran just those regional geo-targeted campaigns because we wanted to obviously capture those Bear customers that, may not even been into a Bear, but potentially had the brand association of walking past that shop would obviously help to trigger a better conversion rate online. But we are running with Bear on a national basis now. So for us, we've seen real strength from that conversion rate. It's not as high as the regional geo-targeting, but that's to be expected as we're doing a lot of work in terms of conversion optimization on site. So, but yeah, they have. They've definitely branched out to a wider audience base who would have never walked past one of their coffee shops, which is great.
Thanks. Sophie says, and this is a tricky one, isn't it? So how much do influencers charge? It's one of those, how long's a piece of string, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, we have obviously seen, as with all digital advertising, reduced rates, and we've seen influencers, because they haven't potentially got all the tools that are, in terms of how they would generally set their stall by being at home. You are able to get some good deals. But you can work with an influencer. There doesn't actually have to be any money exchanged. It could just be products. So here's some products for you to try. Also bearing in mind, because we run paid media advertising behind our influencer campaigns, it's quite a nice trade-off if they want to potentially increase their profile as well to a new audience. For the simple exchange being, well, we're going to put X amount of paid advertising behind this ad, and that will therefore result in X amount of impressions. You don't always have to pay. You could, they potentially want the exposure as well. So I guess it ranges from free all the way up to the biggest influencer deal that we've done in the past 12 months has been a monthly retainer of work. But, that was for health brands where they were having to put in a lot of resource into some YouTube videos for us. That was about $1,500 a month. So, yeah, it does differ.
Yeah. Dale, great question. Davina, your content looks fantastic for your clients. If we do not have a company such as Crate, how do you recommend we create similar content ourselves?
Well, I think that's the great thing about, let's call it the programmatic ad space, is that anybody can set up Facebook Business Manager and can start experimenting. We've just started working on TikTok campaigns. again, they have a very simple to use ads platform. So, I mean, look, I would always, and I, I've worked in digital for a long time, but I only ever want to work with clients and partners where we are adding value. So Hattie at Bear, she creates awesome content and we just reformat it, and so they don't need our creative services per se, and that's absolutely fine. So we need to, the agency landscape needs to kind of move on from where it is currently, whereby you are working with specialists. And I'm all for, obviously, making sure that we get clients tooled up in-house to take their brand forward. And we did that with LV a couple of years back, where all of their in-house buying, it's a female tech brand. We worked with Mother to create all their TV, their big assets into digital format, and then we tooled up their teams for them to take it in. Take it in-house. The only barrier to entry is going to be display marketing, because it's not quite as clear cut, as Google Ads isn't really it's great to stick your toe in the water, but if you want ads that support video and support let's say rich media and real experiences, then you are going to have to work with a better display platform. So there are licensing options available potentially as well. But yeah, that's the one that's a little bit trickier, is display advertising. But for social, absolutely, start tinkering and start doing some bits in-house. That's how I learned my trade.
Well, Wayne, I commented on this when I met you for the first time. Wayne says, no questions, but I'm loving the Stone Roses cover behind you.
Thank you. I know. I was wondering whether to move it, because I don't know whether it's, the team that I work with. They're quite young, as most people that work in social are. And they were just like, what is that? Who are they? So
no, shocking. Shocking. Yes, Felix says, I'll look at the Chris Croft presentation. Yeah, please do. Peter says, the Bear example shows how the pandemic has forced businesses to do what they should have thought about. Typical Boston matrix, existing product, new markets. Warren, upfront without any stunts. Thanks for the reply. Dale comes back with, that's a great customer orientated attitude. Again, under promise, over deliver. Sophie mentions Canva. Yeah, I mean, again, as you say, Sophie, there, if you are a one-man band, then yeah, hiring freelancer.com is an obvious one. Virtual assistant is a route you can go down as well. Absolutely, and your own services, as you mentioned, why not? Let's have a quick look. Any other questions? Please pop them in. Simon says, what budget are Bear working with?
I wouldn't want to give away too much for a brand, but I think it's totally achievable to speak to and engage with an audience. If you've got good content, then on social in particular, you should only be, you could start at £100 in terms of boosting posts. It really does start with the content and making sure you really understand your brand values and you understand exactly the audience that you're going to communicate with. If you've got that right, then you don't have to spend vast amounts. We spent a bit more because we wanted to deliver, obviously, traffic to the e-commerce store. But again, if you've got a KPI such as sales, then you can start looking at the return on ad spend model. And then for us, we were fortunately in a positive return on ad spend model. So that meant that we could put a bit more budget in. So that, yeah, hopefully without giving too much of Bear's financials away, that kind of gives you an understanding of that. You can start with really small budgets, but as long as you've got a clear KPI, then you can start adding in more to turn the wheel.
Yeah, a couple of questions around that I've got through the private question tab here. Hi, Davina. For those of us who have never used a digital agency before, please can you give us a rough idea of monthly budgets for each of your case studies? So you might not want to do it for the case studies, obviously, but
Yeah, I think again, like it's more about the longevity. We tend to work with clients, individuals that are like-minded, where we can also learn from them. And it's very difficult to do marketing on businesses where you're not passionate or if you don't really believe in what they're trying to achieve. So it's not about loving a brand, because not all brands are going to speak to me, just like my taste in music doesn't speak to the team, my my employees at Cray. But I think it's about, if you can see there is a clear a clear correlation, and you can see that brand is really going to engage with that audience, then that for me is when I want to work with a client and I want to take it to the next level. So it's more, monthly retainers of a brand is a lot for the small business. So we need to make sure that they're getting not just the specialist, make sure they're getting the right advice in terms of keeping their business moving forward.
Yeah. And it's funny, I mentioned before to Davina, my main business is a podcast agency, and pricing is really tricky to start with, and knowing what to do. And it's like, for me, it was when not one client when I started actually questioned my pricing, that I then started asking some friends who I really respected, who'd been in business, for many decades with agencies, and just said, if you get that, you need to, offer a different price, and then see what the resistance is at that price. And then, just keep, especially when you're starting, everything's about testing. As far as I'm concerned, everything's about A/B testing, trying different prices out with your clients is just one of them. And give you an idea, for example, I've worked with two different PR agencies, one local in Bournemouth, so like a regional, I suppose, agency, and their retainers like £2,000 a month to work with them. Yet a friend of mine runs an agency in London, very well-known PR agency, and theirs is £6,000 a month. And clearly their overheads are going to be very different, and the size of the team is very different than the more regional based operation. But I think, like Davina said, for me, it's getting a right fit. Like, again, clients that I'm working with the podcast, I've been, really flexible in my pricing, because some of these brands, I want to interview the people that they're interviewing for their podcast anyway, and the brand, excites me, and I might already be consuming their product. So it's like, I actually really want to work with you. Let's just make this happen. How can we make this happen? Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think it's always easier when you're working with an e-commerce model. So I come from a direct response background. So we would generally steer towards that CPA modeling. And this was way back after the kind of the .com bust, when that was very important for clients to be investing and seeing a return. So although brand, you definitely need to make sure that you're not just doing CPA activity or affiliate activity, but the way that we generally approach direct to consumer brands, or even any of the brands at Arcadia Group, which obviously we all know have had a bit of a tough time, but actually you take Topshop, their online sales are very strong, and we're able to prove to them that if you invest X amount, you're going to deliver this many sales. Once you start working with a brand, and it's that mechanic, and this is small brands I've worked with where I've built them up. Small luxury brands like House of Hackney weren't really doing much in terms of digital activity, but as soon as we pixeled up the site and then started to test and learn and see that actually we can deliver a very strong return on ad spend for you, like I said, it has to be added value. You have to work with you should only work with an agency that is giving you that additional value. So if I can deliver more sales for a business, then that's great. It's win-win all round. We're helping to grow a business, and with House of Hackney, we set up all of their US marketing activity, and then now they've tooled up and they've taken a team in-house, which we help train. So I think it's that for me is a massive sense of achievement. Earlier on in my career, I was saying to Alex that I lived in the States. I worked on Walmart. And for me to make a difference to Walmart's business was it wasn't very satisfying because, I mean, it's Walmart. Like it's really difficult to show that the strategies that me and my team were putting together were delivering a positive, either a positive brand shift or a positive revenue. So that's why I like working with D2C brands, where you can pixel up and you can actually see the proof is in the pudding. So I think that for me is where I make my decisions when I'm onboarding clients. If I know that I can make a difference and me and my team can see that, then that really excites me to know that we've helped to grow a brand and a business.
Yeah, great answer.
Nice people along the way as well.
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah. Great answer. Mike says, thanks, Davina, great presentation. It's a good question, Sophie. So I don't know if you break this down, but how many hours would you spend on a client? And I guess, maybe that's different agency to agency, but just as a rough guide, maybe, for people who are thinking of employing an agency, what was their expectation with regards to how long you would work with them on that?
Well, I think it's understanding if you have, say, a lower end, you've got a social media exec, for example, and maybe they're helping you with content planning and doing some paid media advertising. So someone at that end, for me, it's really important that client understands, is that person only working on me? For some of the brands we work with, yes, they'll have 2 or 3 members of staff that purely work on their accounts. But if they're not, then what is the percentage of time that I get? So with Bear, it's shared with, there's an account manager and account exec, and they work across 3 other clients. But they understand that and they know that. And obviously, hopefully post lockdown, now things are opening up again, we can get Bear back up too, because they're paying extortionate rents as well, unfortunately. Whilst all this has been going on, so we want to keep the business going. We want to make sure that their e-commerce store that we've seen real positive results from continues to build. So potentially, then they may have 1 full-time social media exec working on their account. So it really differs. I need to just make sure that person's paid for and that my rent's paid for, and that's it. It's very, we try and keep it very simple in that sense.
Warren. So Warren's launched a podcast through my Podpreneur Facebook group. Always has good questions. Has the agency ever worked on collaborations without raising an invoice for benefits on both sides? Like it, Warren.
Free shoes.
Free shoes. Always does it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we're coming up. Well, just check the time. We're literally there, aren't we? Let me double check. Private question. So Jane, with regards to the podcast, either drop me a message on LinkedIn, or I'm doing a free webinar next Friday. I think it's at 12 o'clock. I think it's exactly this time, 12 o'clock next Friday, on podcasting, and I'll be covering that, B2B, B2C, when it comes to podcasts. Again, I'm saying to Davina, literally working with everybody from an iced coffee brand to a zoo. So there's it covers a whole range of different things. I don't want to take this time away from this presentation. So just thinking, did I miss any questions? Anybody else? Last question, pop them in the box for us before Davina goes. You're welcome. Any last questions? I know Warren comes from the fashion industry, don't you, Warren? That's what the podcast is about. Just double checking. Felix, Chris Croft is the name. You got the name spelt right as well. That's a presentation you want to look for pricing. Is a really good one. And good luck with your agency, Felix, as well. Hope it goes well. You're welcome, Warren. I suppose let's wrap up, shall we, Davina? Loads of thank yous coming in. We're coming up to the hour, so I'll let you get some lunch and another drink whilst listening to Stone Roses. So any last thoughts to wrap up with regards to making new digital strategies authentic, and how can people connect with yourself and create? I've just connected with you on LinkedIn, so I can tell you it's dead easy, but anyway.
there's only one Davina Dunlea, so it's helpful.
It is helpful. Yeah. Any last thoughts, Davina? You want to Thank you.
No, I think it's just again it's like what I said. You know, I've been having these chats about setting up an e-commerce store or about setting up on Amazon, and sometimes you have to get to these points in in the world, on the world stage, where you're like, oh crap, we better get on and do this now. So it's actually, for me, it's been really positive to see. I do think with marketing, people overthink it a lot. And I think you've just got to go. And the great thing about digital is that you can change the messaging. And that's really where you learn the optimization, you learn what an audience is responding to, is being able to just get a message out there. And if it doesn't quite resonate with a certain audience, then just tweak it. And then, and that's constant test and learn is the way to approach digital. It's very, very different from traditional advertising. So I would say if don't be scared, just start testing the waters. And all programmatic platforms, you can start at a really low ad spend just to see what's going to work. As long as you've served at least 1,000 to 5,000 impressions on Facebook, then you've got a good test bed in terms of what's resonating.
Do you think, as a last point, someone was chatting in the week, I don't know how you felt this, that at the moment the algorithms are still actually trying to work out what to do, because they've kind of been thrown by what's happened during the last 8-10 weeks, when people have been spending ridiculous amounts of money on their homes, on their gardens, on indoor sports equipment.
We've had to do a lot of capping, actually, because what we were finding is that our budgets were being spent too early in the day, because obviously online usage is up. And we obviously were being very cautious with our clients' budgets. So we're actually doing quite a lot of time targeting with our ads to make sure that come evening, after evening news, when you do see more engagement online, that we had enough budget left. So we have had to do an awful lot of time targeting. So we've had to do a lot more setup, I would say, to make sure that we use our budget wisely. It's been quite labour intensive, but then we've learned a few little tricks as well. Definitely on Facebook, we've been doing a lot of duplicate ads, and then pausing ones which don't get a click straight away, just to make sure, because it kind of gets the algorithm going, and then you'll see favourable rates being sent to that ad because of consumer relevancy. So it's been a great time for us to do some testing. I just saw one question there from Leslie. Good question. It is a really good question, because we signed 2 new clients mid-March, and we've not gone live with them yet, because they wanted to see how this all kind of hand over, and we're very nervous to start investing in new channels. Which one of them was a homeware product, and I do think that they would have benefited by going live, but people are nervous, and rightly so. So it has been difficult, Leslie. It has been. Thank God I've got a nice book of clients. I'm a similar experience. I had like 2 clients right before, and then they literally pressed pause, because it was just like, and then people are furloughing marketing departments, and there's the conversations you're having with marketing directors. But people are, again, I don't know if you found this, Davina, I'm now getting, I'm having more conversations with people who want to do business, because marketing budgets are being freed up, and instead of being in reactive mode, people are now looking at strategies for the next quarter. I just picked up a new client this morning, which I'm very excited about, and another one last week. So I think things are definitely, I don't know about you in London. Yeah, I think, do you know what, I've had really great conversations, and it is kind of everyone just, cuts the BS, and it's very much about, okay, look, here we are, this is what we've got to do, this is what all our targets for 2020 have gone out the window, but this is what we've got to try and do. So actually, in terms of having very good new business conversations, with meeting new clients and new potential partners, that's been brilliant. But actually getting them to spend on a new channel with a new partner during this time has been difficult, but then I completely respect that, because of course it's a tough time for everyone. So let alone if you've got any homeschooling going on, so that's
I know my wife just started setting up her beauty salon back up today, and it's like now all of a sudden I've got 2 children here on my own. It's like, how? Where are you? Come back. Don't go back to work.
Well, my little boy's actually having a nap. This worked beautifully with nap time, because his nursery's not back open yet. So right, yeah, I know. It's all juggling.
It is still juggling, isn't it? It is. And yeah, Leslie says, hoping that the message about keep marketing will actually get through now, and they are thinking more long-term now with the strategies. I think so. I definitely think so. People are looking at that again. And it's just that knee-jerk reaction to start with. I was working with 2 amazing brands. One was a $300 million nail brand, and another one was a $50 million backpack brand. And they both just went shelved 2021. And I was just like, no, I'm so looking forward to working with you both, you know. But now they're like, let's have the conversation again. So I think it was just that knee-jerk reaction, shift everything off the table, and now, you know, have those conversations again. So positive message coming from us, without a doubt, Davina and I. And hopefully the same with you all out there as well. So Davina, we can send an email to everybody who's registered, those who registered and didn't make it to the rescheduled time. So if you want to ping me something today or even by Monday, and I can get it across to everybody, that would be great, I think, as a follow-up.
Fab, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thanks for the questions. They've all been great. And it's quite nice just to engage and have a chat as well.
Definitely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. It's been a really good presentation.
Thanks
Davina.
so much.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good weekend.